Madam Minister, there is one thing that you cannot fault the current government or the previous government, tenure of the Modi government, is that they are very responsive. Several times they respond very quickly. We saw that post-demonetization as well. And they have identified certain key areas. Recapitalization of the banks has been a big focus. You've talked about the corporate tax cut, which was a long-standing demand. And Arnab touched about the lag. But I want to understand from you, as the finance minister, what is that one area which you feel you have to work on for the next 6 months, 1 year, that is continuing to be the biggest problem for the lag or for the overall liquidity issue or whatever you deem is the current problem right now? What is on fast track right now?
There won't be one. If actually I'll have to list out, there are a few. But if indeed you want to reduce it to one, I would only say more money in investments from the public sector, so that the more the public sector invests, private sector will be induced to follow, private sector would like to capitalize, and therefore there will be greater investments, creating more purchases of essential raw materials and resulting in more jobs. So more investments from the public treasury.
And you've invested so much. Aishwarya, just a short follow-up. The government has invested so much. Government has given so much for public infrastructure. Why isn't the private investment picking up?
Well, I think that's a very long story which most of the private sector people would understand, and I wouldn't want to repeat it, because the more times you repeat it, it's also going to have a sentiment value or sentiment impact. Many things have happened in the last several years, and now when they're coming out of the difficulties, they take a while to take investment decisions. So that time consumption by the investors, private sector investors, is understandable, because they are coming out of a trying situation in which they were. The double balance sheet problem, the twin balance sheet problem that we were talking about, private sector balance sheet, bank balance sheet, all that has been, in the past. But I think they will be coming around now that the tax incentive has been given. They should be able to sooner start investing. But the reason why I harp on investment is the momentum which the government set in pace in order to put public money into infrastructure building, because it will have a comprehensive impact on the society, cannot be undermined at all. And that is why even yesterday when I was sitting and reviewing the task force that I've appointed to look at the infrastructure pipeline, clearing big ticket projects, they are going absolutely fine. And sometime middle of December, you will get to know of the major projects which are getting, because of the front loading of the 100 lakh crores that we've announced, you will know that big ticket also is moving absolutely fast.
Ma'am, anyone who knows leader Nirmala Sitharaman, they know that you've been capable enough to steer away the toughest questions ever since BJP. We've asked you several questions.
Steer away or answer?
Steer away, bacha ke le jao.
Answer.
BJP ko bacha ke le jao. Ma'am, and Hindi mein bhi, Hindi mein bhi, or Hindi is as good as English. We remember Nirmala Sitharaman doing press conferences in Hindi. Ma'am, you can't.
And you sat and giggled.
No, but that's okay. But that way you've given us that leverage. So what I'm saying, ma'am, whatever figures you give, whatever, how do I say, so whatever elaborate explanations you give, basic aadmi, ma'am, the common man still asks, ho kya raha hai? Ho kya raha hai? And kab theek hoga? Because now you're weekly. You used to come out once a week and speak. So the people used to get a message. Now the budget is going to come, that's going to stop as well. So aam aadmi pooch raha, bhai ho kya raha hai? From the finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Ma'am, Hindi mein bole.
I'm coming to it.
Okay.
Ho kya raha hai sounds very punchy in Hindi. For me to give a punchy reply in Hindi is very difficult. I'll only say, acha hi ho rahi hai.
But now when your weekly appearances are going to be less or completely over, ma'am, the message, how would the message go? Because the industry...
What he's saying is that your Friday press conferences having stopped is a source of constant heart attacks for people in Mumbai. They were actually looking forward to it, let me tell you. Yeah, I know you. That's true. Every Friday, you ask anybody in industry was looking forward to a press conference, but there's a drought of that. So, they were expecting this sop week after week. You've spoiled the habit.
No, whilst I take the blame for spoiling the habit, you have parliament session now.
That's true.
Is it all right for a finance minister to come in on a weekly appearance and say, I've brought in new things to your kitty? Not the best time. And as soon as the parliament is over, we get into that period when everything is locked up for pre-budget consultations. So till the parliament is on, if I have to announce, I'm not closing the door. If I have to announce, I will announce on the floor of the House. It won't be in a press conference on a Friday. It might be on the floor of the House.
Might be here.
So I'm not saying anything on it. But I'm only saying I'm not shutting the door.
There's one announcement from the public sphere, also from the point of view of parity and being fair. We have to be fair because you slashed your corporate tax rates. And anyone who knows that says that it's not new. You had made a fundamental promise in previous budgets, it was adhered to. So it's not new, but the fact that it happened was a source of relief because the position you took in your first budget after coming in 2019 was a tough one. But my question is that if you've slashed your corporate rates, the middle class income tax slabs remain unchanged. So means they are getting no relief on the taxes at a time when their purchasing power is limited. That, along with the fact that we are still in the arena of vulnerable employment, most people in India who find jobs don't find the jobs which are non-precarious, which are stable. So when will you give similar relief to the honest tax-paying middle classes or salaried classes of India? Is that on your mind? Don't make the announcement, but is it, even if you say it's on my mind, that'll mean a lot.
The honest middle class taxpayer is never forgotten. Otherwise, would you think that the Prime Minister would have come up with a scheme for the affordable housing, which actually benefits the middle class? And even in the affordable housing, not just for buying affordable housing, which has a certain ceiling limit, but also when you buy your second house, when you're on rent, whole lot of things have been extended to the middle class, and middle class is never forgotten. All right?
Well, you didn't announce anything out there. You said we haven't forgotten, but this has been. I'm not asking.
You said don't announce.
I'm saying don't announce, but say
you
that.
Stopped me.
Are you saying that my mind and my heart is thinking about the possibility?
But you stopped me.
No, but I didn't stop you at all.
Look at that.
I've unfettered you now. Would you please say so? I've unfettered you now, so say so. Ms. Sitharaman, a statement of intent. You see, eventually it has to be about your base. Your base is not big enough. Now you're asking for due diligence, you're asking for compliance. I think the first thing, while you harden on compliance, should be the fact that you should work hard to increase your base. And what better way than of saying that we will broad base and maybe revisit the slabs that the tax-paying classes are paying.
I don't ever forget them, Arnab, but it's also good that you've really spent a lot of time reminding me about it. I'll keep that in mind.
Well, thank you very much. On behalf of everyone, thank you very much. And all our Republic Network employees as well, who are all tax-paying, honest, salaried class people, we are all part of that. Well, please, further questions.
I just want to take off from the recent PMC bank scam. And I know you've cleared your finance ministry's position. Of course, the RBI has been working on it. But corruption overall and corruption in financial institutions has been grabbing the headlines most recently. The Prime Minister was here yesterday. He talked about the background of the NPA issue that the government is dealing with. We've had the Economic Offenders Bill. We've had the PMC bank scam right now. And other, you're bringing a regulation bill for chit funds. So there have been Ponzi schemes that have robbed people. Corruption is a large focus of the Narendra Modi-led government. What is your vision on this as the finance minister, especially corruption that has seeped into financial institutions?
And one line to follow up from Shivani's very pertinent question. Ms. Sitharaman, a crackdown on corruption alone is not enough to steer the economy. That is a separate process. The crackdown on corruption, everything. She spoke about the regulation of chit funds, the transparent auction of coal blocks. We appreciate that. Dragging back economic fugitives, fantastic. But a crackdown on corruption alone is not enough to steer the economy. Please.
I fully agree. But yet, unless I attend to that also, the system is not going to change. The fact that you're constantly reminding me about the harassment of tax assessees. And that is where the reforms are not just to remove those who are with several cases of corruption and disproportionate assets, which has been over the decades pending. We've taken legitimate course of removing them because there are provisions for me to do that. But simultaneously, I'm improving the systems too. So not one notice from any one of the tax authorities, direct or indirect, can be sent to the assessee unless it has a centralized, computerized number. And it also very clearly states in that about the claims. This will ensure that at a local level, no officer can go about saying, hey, I've come to inspect you, I've come to, levy a charge on you, you have to pay this much without the system approving it. What is the system? At least there is an accountability. The claim that this man makes is based on some data, and eventually when the collection happens, that collection goes into the treasury and not into his pocket. That is where this twin system of give the number, state what you're asking for, and then justify the collection, and you shall not do it face on face. You shall not have a personal interface. And this is a major correction to the course for the corruption. But yet, on the way in which assessment has to be done, on the way in which taxpayers will have to be facilitated, and above all, looking at GST with a lot more intention to simplify and rationalize it, are the ways in which I expect better compliance.
Well, I think, we have Mohandas Pai in the audience. His pet peeve, and I'm sure he'll ask a question when I throw it open, has been on the issue of tax terrorism. And I hope you do something about this. Nirmala ji, I know you have limited time. I'm going to open up to a few questions from those in the audience. On the issue of tax terrorism only, I'd say this, that, sometimes you found, like in a certain case of an individual who committed suicide, that just before the person did so, there was an assessment which came up when a large transaction happened.